like to talk to Mark about. And it really involves how fast these batteries can charge. So actually, Mark, can you give us a quick overview of the company, where things are now, when you'll have product available, and then we'll go into the batteries.
Yeah, so hey, I appreciate you having me here. So currently, the company's still in the early stages. We are raising funding. We're building new technologies. We're striving as much as we can, right, to get to the point where we have a vehicle to showcase and get into production. But primarily, all of our effort, at least initially, has been on solving some of the battery challenges related to EVs. We believe that if the world's going to shift, right, and it's going to move to a new mobility technology, we can't do that and ask for compromise. We have to be able to develop a solution that is simply just better. And that's where our focus has primarily been.
Yes. Okay. So you've had a battery day in person, I think, already, and you're going to have a virtual battery day too, right? Which is going to happen after this video. And then in the in-person one, from what I read, I wasn't there in person, but you showcased the technology that allows you, correct me if I'm wrong, to charge this entire battery 0 to 100% in under 15 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, so we did a little bit of an impromptu. It was kind of a rushed battery day, but we wanted to get out there. It was kind of the first day we were in the new facility in the new building, and wanted to give people a chance to come out and meet the new team and kind of go from there. And on that day, we did a test and we charged it in 22 minutes for that particular day. And then subsequently, in the following weeks, we've actually gotten the charge time down to 9 minutes and 26 seconds. So 15 minutes is our goal. That's our kind of line in the sand. But some of the latest, and they're very repeatable tests, we could do this over and over and over and over again, is we were able to charge this particular battery demo, this kind of engineering test prototype in 9 minutes, 26 seconds. And we continue to do that every day since then.
That's amazing. It's unbelievable. I mean, and I own a electric car. I own a Tesla as a 90 kilowatt pack. What kind of a pack size are you talking about charging here in less than 10 minutes?
So this is a small prototype that we were using there. It's something that we could demonstrate in front of everyone. We could plug into a wall, right? And so it's not necessarily very large. The end vehicle pack that we're developing is in the 250 kilowatt hour usable capacity range. And to be able to do that, obviously there's no charger on the market today that could charge that in less than 10 minutes.
Right.
So we're also trying to develop that, and we showcase some concepts and prototypes of things like the charging handle, the cables, and things like that during that sort of in-person battery day, where we're also developing a 1.5 megawatt charging station technology. And where we're focused right now is in solving the pieces that are hard, which is the cable construction, the handle itself, that interlock mechanism, and how we actually deliver that power from something that can actually be rather large, right, to something that anybody can handle. Okay.
Now, from what I understand about batteries too, I don't think it matters the actual total size of that pack, because it seems like for instance, Tesla, a 70 kilowatt is going to charge just as fast as 100 kilowatt. It's a technology, right?
That is correct. So really, the best example I could give is the size of the bucket doesn't necessarily matter. It's just you have to have a big enough hose, right, to be able to push energy into that. Now, there's some caveats with battery technology, but yeah, if a 70 kilowatt hour pack and a 100 kilowatt hour pack, if the technology doesn't allow you to charge faster than, say, 2C or 1C or 3C peak, then it doesn't matter how big that pack is, it's going to take the same amount of time. The only difference would be as the bucket grows, right, we just need a bigger hose to push more energy in there. And I'm using that analogy because that's very simple to understand.
Yes. Okay. Now, you mentioned some other parts like the hose, other ways to connect to the battery. Is this fast charging technology proprietary to Atlis? And are you going to have your own dedicated system of chargers that's going to be capable of this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Currently, it's proprietary simply because we're developing it in-house. But it's definitely something that we are looking to simply just open up right, and allow others to connect to and make it more of an open source sort of solution going forward. We're very interested from a company perspective in the development of that charging infrastructure and that technology and what we can do with that. But opening that up and allowing others to sort of jump on board, there's a huge advantage to doing that. We don't want to be so proprietary that we're not useful beyond just our own ecosystem and what we're developing within Atlas. We definitely want to be the company that's helping to push things forward and be as open to that as we possibly can.
Okay, let me comment on some of my own experiences with my own Tesla, which has a tow hitch. It can tow up to 5,000 pounds. I'm towing around that amount of weight. I'm going long distance. I'm running into huge issues when I show up at a charger for two reasons. Number one, I can't pull in. There's no pull-through chargers.
Yeah, that's one of the most ridiculous things ever, right? Is that everything is pull in and park. And I've seen your videos where you're unhitching or you're pulling it sideways, you're blocking it, and that's inconvenient for everyone.
Yes. So that's one issue, but the speed is the other issue because, I've noticed that I've owned this car for 3 years. The software has changed over time. The way it is now, I think it's more optimized for their version 3 chargers, where the peak charging rate is a narrow band that seems to extend between about 20% of battery.
Yeah, it typically looks like something like that.
Yeah. So once I get above 60, it's just like a snail's pace, and I'm waiting forever for this thing to charge.
Right.
So how does your technology deal with that?
So that's an excellent question. I think overall, with Atlas, you will see a curve that's very similar, and that has to do with that voltage, that potential difference, right, between where you're headed and how much you're actually able to pump in, and that helps determine how much current you can actually push in there. But the one thing that we try to focus on is customer experience. So if we wanted to add bragging rights, right, we're 3,000 miles per hour or something like that at peak rate, right, which is phenomenal. Yeah. But then it only lasts, this much of a charge curve. That's really that much. And it's really about the overall experience. Is how fast can, if you pull in, just like today when I fill up my diesel truck, I just want to pull in. I don't care what it's at, right? If it's a quarter tank, half tank, it's empty. And then I want to fill it all the way up. And that's what I'm concerned about. And when you're towing, that's more important, because when you're towing, you want as much of that usable capacity as you can possibly get, because your range will go down, right? As you're probably experiencing with Model X. So being able to deliver a very consistent experience is super important, because if you can only drive for 2 hours and you have to charge for an hour, that's a non-starter. But if you could drive for 2 or 3 hours at whatever highway speeds, plug in, and within 15 minutes, and I'll say within 15 minutes, you can get back up and you could do that same 2 or 3 hour stretch again. That's a very compelling thing. So our focus is on solving that problem. Now, very similar to Tesla and everyone in the industry, there is a percentage at the end that we don't use, and there is a percentage at the bottom that we don't use. And we do that for longevity, and we do that for various different reasons. But that's standard practice in the industry, and that's what we focus on. But we're really not trying to advertise like 0 to 80% and give some phenomenal number, or 100 miles in 5 minutes, because those are cool from a marketing standpoint, but those are unimportant from a practical standpoint.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that there's always a buffer, top and bottom, because you never want to completely charge or completely discharge. I totally get that. But you're saying the usable range that someone sees in their vehicle as usable will be done completely in this time frame that you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah. What our customers expect is from empty to what's considered full. Right. It has to happen within that 15-minute time frame. And there's a lot that happens in that 15 minutes. It's not just plug in and go, right? There's battery conditioning that has to happen. There's various different configuration things that have to happen. There's a lot of stuff that happens in that 15 minutes, but we have to accomplish that whole goal in that 15-minute time period.
So for instance, like looking into the future at an Atlis vehicle that has this technology, would it have to precondition that battery before it arrives at the charger? Would that be part of that?
It's always a possibility, but the ultimate goal is that no, you don't have to do that. So if you drive like I do, sometimes I drive till I'm empty and then I realize, oh, okay, I got to fill it up. Sometimes I I'm like, hey, I got a quarter of a tank. I might as well put this in because I don't want to deal with it later. The actions of people are sometimes spontaneous, and we need to be able to deliver an experience that is spontaneous. So doing things like, oh, I need to learn your behavior so I know when you're going to charge and things like that, that to me, it's okay, but it doesn't really make sense to do that because people make spontaneous decisions as to what they do. If they're like you, maybe today you're towing and tomorrow you're not. Those are two different scenarios, two different use cases. Maybe you're in Phoenix, but tomorrow you're in LA. Those are two different driving experiences, and whether or not you can find chargers and things like that. So let's ignore that. And let's just say when you want to charge, this is the experience you get, and that's what we designed to.
That's perfect, because I have recognized absolutely that owning an electric vehicle today in 2020 requires a lot of planning that would not be involved. And even though I can say my car says my car does this, my car does that, it still requires me thinking more and planning more and not being spontaneous and not having that.
Right. And the ultimate goal is throughput and reducing cost of the infrastructure, right? Let's turn $1 trillion problem into a $500 billion problem if we can. Let's get, for every one charger, let's get 4 people through in an hour versus 1 in an hour. All of those things are very beneficial. And if you're like me, I like to travel. I like to do road trips and stuff with my family. And sometimes we'll go somewhere and we'll spontaneously decide we want to go here. I want to have that freedom again to do that and not have to plan an extra 3 hours of my day to accomplish that.
That would be wonderful. Okay, now the biggest question in my mind about this is going to revolve around the life of the battery pack. What is this going to do to the life of the battery pack? Because everything I've heard says well, let's say for me personally, I just did a video. I have supercharged. That's Tesla's DC fast charging. You're talking about DC fast charging as well.
Yep.
1,400 times on my battery pack. And people, when I first got there, like, you can't do that. You're going to kill your battery pack. I've got 125,000 miles on it now. So it's still less than.
Still goes. Yeah.
Yes, but less than 10% degradation, still working the way it's supposed to. What is this going to do for Atlis at this 3,000 miles an hour rate of charge? What's going to happen?
So fast charging a battery does degrade life versus slow charging the battery. We take that into account when we design the system. We also take into account the method at which we go through and actually charge that system is doing some things to mitigate that risk. So it's not just, hey, we're going to do this and it's going to suck in 5 years. We aim for 10 years. We aim for a certain number of miles driven. We either build a business model around making sure that works, or we build technology to accommodate whatever it is you're trying to do. So again, I'm a firm believer of simplicity. I don't want our customers to have to worry about that or think about that. If they use the vehicle a certain way, let's design around that and let's make sure that it meets that expectation. So our goal, and I'm not saying that we're 100% there yet, but our absolute goal is that after 10 years, you would not experience a degradation in performance that is significant enough for you to notice it. So that means we have to design around, and we have to put buffers in. We have to do a number of things. And from a charging standpoint, we have to do a number of things to ensure that you get consistent performance for that 10-year life under a very specific use case that is associated with trucks, not cars, trucks, right?
Right.
You might charge every day. You might charge once a week. You might charge multiple times a day, depending on what you're doing. And we have to take into those different scenarios into account and accommodate that.
Okay. So, and your company is specifically targeting commercial users. Is that correct?
Yeah. So our business model and our use cases are targeted around commercial users. Individuals will be able to buy the vehicle, very similar to, I own a 3/4 ton diesel truck.
Yeah.
I do use it in its capacity, but not very often because I'm more consumer versus work in the capacity at which I use it. But our target market is the work market. Our target market is individuals that use that vehicle for those very specific things, whether it's directly for work or maybe you're a weekend warrior, right? You'd like to tow the RV trailers. In your case, right, you're towing a trailer cross country for different events and things like that. That's very specific to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, what you're doing is designing a product that I would love to have for sure. But like let's say the average Joe or Jane driving to the office is not going to need that. But at the same, on the other side of that coin, somebody who's doing this for a living, who's it's their livelihood, they need this technology that you're talking about. They need that fast charging. It won't be attractive to them. And I totally understand why you're doing this. And I love that you're doing it. And I can't wait to see it in action.
Yeah, well, it's been a fun experience, and the next year or so is going to be a lot of fun. We're a little bit delayed, of course. I'm sure everybody knows that, but we're definitely looking forward to where we're going with this and what's going to be possible.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we can get an update from you in the near future as things progress, because I think that what you've got is wonderful for the commercial user. I think that the commercial user, especially somebody who's really going through this battery pack, towing or hauling, whatever they're doing during the day, is going to appreciate those rapid charges. They can keep at their job. They can keep getting their hourly rate. They can keep that income coming in. I mean, that's what it's all about. So
right, downtime is lost money, and downtime is lost time, right? And time is the most valuable thing we have, so let's give that back.
Yes, yeah, and if you can do it and not make, like you said, you own a diesel, not make any of those pollutants. Okay, I mean that's going to totally change the job site experience for a lot of people for the better. So I'm really glad you're doing this.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, well, hopefully we'll get to talk soon, and thank you again for joining us and updating us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely recommend check out the live battery day that we're going to do here. We'll do a live broadcast over YouTube and a couple other channels. I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Yep, I'm going to be there too. So can't wait for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.